few days ago, I published a video in which I showed this picture taken from 37 meters at Kinghorn of the Bass Rock Island, and also this picture taken from 5-meter elevation at Dalgety Bay in Fife. And I asked flat earthers if they could explain the observation. If I can actually show, when you overlay these two images, you can see that they line up very well, and that the vast majority of bass rock, maybe 75%, also is hidden from view when viewed from Dalgety Bay on the day and at the time in question. Now, the observation itself is very clear and requires an explanation. Since I published this video, a YouTuber called Flatsa has also visited Dalgety Bay and has published some videos showing some slightly different observations of the Bass Rock. And I'm anticipating that flat earthers will jump all over these and claim some kind of subterfuge on my part, or some kind of disreputable behaviour on my part for not including various other possibilities. My video was challenging flat earthers to explain this observation taken on this day and not any other observation. But let's have a look at Flatsa's observation and see what we can make of it, as well as perhaps some more pictures of my own. So here are some other images of the Bass Rock taken from Dalgety Bay in Fife. Now, some of them have been slightly enhanced just to bring out the detail, and you can see that the Bass Rock does not always look exactly the same as it did in the original video that I showed. Sometimes a bit more of it is visible, and sometimes an amount similar to that I actually showed. Here we see a ship with all the hull hidden below the horizon as well. The rock often looks white, and this is due to the bird droppings on the rock. If the sunlight hits it in a particular way, and then it looks very white. This is the observation that I actually published, and we'll see another couple here. Now, sometimes you can just make out the island of Craigleith here in my particular observations, but Flatsa has taken made an observation in which he sees considerably more of the island of Craigleith. So before we have a look at Flatsa's observation, here are a couple of more of mine taken more recently, actually, since he published his videos. These are taken from higher elevations, and you can see the island of Craigleith here in front of the Bass Rock. Craigleith Island and these observations actually becomes visible simply because I am at a higher elevation than I was for the other observations. Now, Flatsa has published a video in which he sees as we shall see in a moment, in which he sees a considerable amount of Craigleith and also the island of Phaedra from what he claims is a 2-foot elevation. I'm not sure he's really at 2 feet, but we'll take him at his word on that. Now, the question is going to become, well, what is going on? My observations are taken early in the morning, usually, or fairly early in the morning, around between 8 and 9 o'clock in the summertime recently, and also in the evening after 7 o'clock in the evening. And it seems to me that the conditions at this time of day are such that very little refraction is actually observed, and so we don't see this sort of looming effect. And I've had a little look at Flatsa's what we're looking at here is maybe partly looming because this was taken in the middle of the day, but also I'm at a much higher elevation and therefore able to see far more of the island of Craigleith and far more of the Bass Rock Island. Now, what I think is going on in Flatsa's video is that I think his shot is probably taken at a time of day when there is considerably more looming going on due to the density of the air close to the water, causing light to be refracted far more than it is in the stills that I showed you a little bit earlier on. So let's have a little look at Flatsa's observation. I think it's very revealing. So this is a still shot from Flatsa's video, and hopefully you can see my cursor here. And what we appear to have is the Bass Rock in the distance here. It's sort of a pale colour. And in front of it, the island of Craigleith. And here is part of the island of Phaedra called Castle Tarbert, I think. And over here we have the remainder of Phaedra and the lighthouse. And the claim is that this is taken from 2 feet at Dalgety Bay. And very close to the location of my observations. Now, what I think we're looking at here is a really good example of looming, and not just looming, but looming of the ocean and looming of the horizon as well. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see that the water clearly has waves on it, and these are very clearly visible up till a point where you have a line running across the screen where the color shade changes, and abruptly we lose all of the definition in the surface of the water. It just becomes a fuzzy blur. And my suggestion would be that what we're looking at here is where the horizon would actually be if there was little refraction going on, or close to where that would be if there was little refraction going on. The water beyond that point has been, the light reflected from the water has been refracted, and the process of that refraction is causing us to lose a great deal of the definition. So we have no obvious sign of waves. We can make out a couple of small light-coloured objects. These may or may not be buoys, markers. They might be seabirds. I can't tell from this distance. But there's really no definition of waves at all in all of this water leading up to where the islands are. And the islands themselves are also being refracted. Now, as I said, my observations are made, all of them, the ones that I've published so far, have been made either sometime sort of well after sunrise, but before the heat of the day has really got going during the summer, or in the evening after the air temperature has started to cool down. And so I think that my observations, which do not exhibit, vast majority of them do not exhibit anything like this kind of band or anything like this evidence of refraction. You also notice how indistinct and blurry the islands appear as well. And again, this is a bit of a telltale sign of refraction. So nobody, I certainly wasn't arguing that you don't sometimes see objects that are much further away due to atmospheric refraction. my claim was that on that particular day, at that particular time, all I saw was the very top of the Bass Rock with a nice clear horizon, and you can see the detail from the wavelengths. Even though this is overexposed, you can see that there are still waves clearly visible all the way up to the Bass Rock, and in some of the other images that I showed, you can see that very clearly as well. So the point that I was making is that this observation still needs to be explained. Simply putting up another observation that shows something slightly different, which is almost certainly caused by atmospheric diffraction, and doesn't change in any way the nature of my observation or the challenge to flat earthers. And finally, I'd like to point out that it appears that something very similar is going on in the so-called Black Swan photograph that flat earthers are also getting rather excited about, or have been for the last few months. There is a change in the nature of the water surface in this portion of the Black Swan pictures. Now, it could be that just here, this is actually a genuine change in the nature of the surface due to difference in wind or subsurface conditions or tide or something. But past where these waves are actually visible, where my cursor is now, we now have an area that is completely indistinct, just a hazy blur, and the flat earthers' contention is that the horizon is back here. Now, clearly there's lots of refraction going on in this image. We can see all the distortion in the straight lines. This has been pointed out by many others, including myself. But the band of sea that we're looking at from this point back to that horizon clearly looks to me to be so just a sort of uniform fuzzy kind of nature, and not having any of the definition that we can see up to this point. And one would expect if we were simply losing the ability to resolve these waves, that you'd see a gradual fading out of the ability to do that. It would be somewhat random, and you wouldn't get this sudden change in the picture. It's not so clear in the Black Swan image, but I think it's what's going on, and it's particularly clear in the particular image that Flatsa took. So I plan to go back down to Dalgety Bay, and I'll be taking some more photographs at different times of the day, and I'll see if I can reproduce something like this. No intention on my part, when I published my original video, to do anything that was sort of omitting stuff or trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. It simply is the observation that I would like to see explained or hear explained in terms of a flat Earth, because I can't think of one. And as I've just pointed out, observations such as the one that Flatsa has published, as we see here, are in fact explicable in terms of refraction, and certainly appear to have the features that one might expect if there was a lot of atmospheric refraction going on. That's all I wanted to say. My voice is a bit croaky because I've not been too well recently, but hopefully you've all got the gist of what I wanted to say. So thanks for watching, and I'll be posting some more videos soon.